Well, hello, ladies.
Hi, hi.
Thank you so much for being here today. This is going to be a lot of fun. Dr. Colleen Olitsky, I had the pleasure of having your husband on the show a couple of months ago. And hey, I learned a lot of things from him.
I bet you did.
Don't tell him that, but so I appreciate you being here, Colleen. Thank you. And
Thank
Dr.
you.
Laura Brennan. Appreciate you being here. I know you and I spoke probably about 3 years ago on a podcast, from what I remember.
It's been
Um,
a while.
and I don't even know what we talked about, to be honest, but I'm sure it had something to do with the subject we're going to talk about today. So, look, I'm really excited. As I mentioned to both of them before we started, I think they're genuinely going to be helping a lot of doctors today. So, welcome, ladies.
Woohoo, let's do it.
So I think the way I want to start this, and I've thought about different ways of doing this, but I think the way I want to start it is, why don't we just kind of start from, you know, how many years you were a dentist and what your experience was during those years being a dentist. And obviously we'll dive a little bit deeper there, and then we'll expand into what you guys are doing, what you ladies are doing today. So Dr. Colleen, would you mind starting out with that question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went, into dental school because I wanted to help people and make a lot of money. And I graduated in 2001. I actually met Jason there. We're dental school sweethearts. I stole him away from his girlfriend of 7 years. Another story of another time. But, we worked in a managed care office for about 3, 4 years. And I was actually really good at that because I'm very efficient and effective and moving, and I love the people and selling the treatment plans and doing all the things. Whereas he was starting to take another path, into the cosmetics, and he was so slow. I call him slow, a perfectionist, right? And then as we opened our practice in 2006, I had really fallen back and almost taken a different role in the office because we weren't busy enough at a scratch practice for two dentists. So I was assisting him on a lot of the big cases. I loved, doing all the treatment planning and, really the sales and marketing and closing the cases. And, I was doing some dentistry, but I feel like as the years went by, I do feel like my confidence kind of waned because if you can imagine, as he shot up, through doing cosmetics, and by comparison, I was like, well, I stink. Like, now, why am I even here? But I enjoyed all those other roles. But then we had our kids, 2008 and 11. And then those next couple of years, it was like we started hiring people who were doing, the front desk and assisting and all the things. And I just kind of felt myself sort of fading into the background. That was kind of his gig. And then having young kids at home, I was just really got miserable at work. And I guess we can transition to that later. But I loved it when I did until I started hating it.
We're going to talk about that some more, but Laura, what about you?
Yeah, well, I love hearing your story, Colleen, because we've met on Facebook and noticed that we've had some similar experiences. I broke up with my dental school boyfriend when we left dental school, so I didn't get to have that marriage practice together. It was mutual, let's say that. Anyway. So I practiced for 10 years and I was really unhappy starting in year 3. My first 3 years, I was like, this is going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard. I'm expecting it to be hard. I'm tough. I also graduated in 01. I'm tough. I can do this. And it makes sense that it would be hard. I just need to grit my way through and learn, and it's going to get easier and better. And then 3 years in, I got better, but I didn't feel better. And at that point, I really lost hope and felt like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And so that was in 2004. And I started looking at other jobs that I could do. And gosh, there's so many details. I'll give you the quick summary so we don't go too far in. But I, at 3 years in, started looking and then back down. I just got scared. I made a lot of excuses why I couldn't change. And so I switched jobs, which was probably the right thing to do. I was in a very high insurance practice where our pace was really fast. I was seeing 30 patients a day. I thought I was going to get sued every day because I didn't have time. And so I was like, I just need to change practices. And so I found a new job. And ultimately, I knew I never wanted to own a practice. I could feel it in my heart that it wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so I tried. I had 3 different associateship positions. I went to Penke 4 times. I mean, I invested in this career and I just could never make it work. So finally, after 10 years, well, after 7, my husband was like, ultimatum. He's like, sort it out. You can't come home crying every day. I don't care what we have to do. If we have to sell our house, if we like sort it out, because our marriage will not last. And his ultimatum was really permission for me to explore. I just had to give myself the permission after that at that point. So ultimately, after 10 years, I completely left dentistry before I came back years later.
Well, so dentists are known for being perfectionists. We have a sense of clinical responsibility. I'm reading this because you talked about it, Laura, as you were speaking. Financial pressure, patient expectations, fear of litigation, isolation, physical demand, staff problems, production pressure, and difficulty separating work from personal life. And, I know all of that resonates, right? And it's really interesting to me because, and I've talked about this, and, Laura, we probably know me a little bit better on social. I take some heat for some of the things that I say. And one of the things that I talk about is it dentistry, right? Is it dentistry, or I just had this conversation with my 11-year-old today. I said, look, who controls how you think? Who controls what comes out of your mouth? Who controls how you behave? And so when you kind of, in other words, take the responsibility for your actions. And this is probably and I told him, this is probably the best lesson you're going to learn from me as a dad is I'm always going to come back to you to say, why did you think that way? And why did you respond that way? As opposed to, you just got to do it this way because this is how I think. I want him to take the lead on control. So my question to you ladies is, and look, it's fair to say that as a practicing dentist of 25 years, I deal with all of these issues as well. Still, right? Balancing life and clinical responsibility. And I got to have my margin to be perfect. And I mean, you'd be surprised how anal I get when I'm delivering cases. I slow down a lot. So I guess the first question is did dentistry, are we misled into thinking what dentistry actually is? And the realization of, how do you know you want to be a dentist? I mean, I decided to be a dentist at 27. I didn't pick up a handpiece until I was in dental school. I didn't have to, cut a tooth until I was third year of dental school. And the practice of dentistry, it takes a little bit of time to do I like doing crowns? Do I like doing implants? Do I like doing root canals? I mean, I guess some people know day one. Some people know when they're 15. But I would guess the majority of us 3 here, at least, and the majority of the profession doesn't really know until they get in and deal with the real life situations. And so were we misled? Were we deceived in what dentistry actually is?
I'd say yes and no. I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, it is a shame that you do need to go through 8 years of school and drop whether it was $250,000 back 25 years ago versus $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 now. That you do need to go through all of that, and then maybe at the end find out, dang, maybe this isn't what I thought it was. That said, I mean, you were talking about taking accountability for yourself. I went through a number of years where, like Laura said, it was like, I can push through this. I mean, I was reading all the personal growth books and doing my gratitude and had this great life on paper. And I should have been happy, but I wasn't. I was miserable. Stepping foot in that office every day felt like death. And I still remember the day, the summer of 2014, my kids were 3 and 6, and I was paying a babysitter to take them to the beach. And it was a beautiful sunny day in Florida. I love the sunshine. I was a lifeguard before I became a dentist, and I remember going to be a dental assistant because my mom's like, well, you need to like actually, yeah, go do that. 'Cause that's what you're going to do. And I almost cried. I hated being trapped inside all day. I would go out for lunch and rip my shirt off, my sports bra, and take walks and lay out in the sun. And I should have known then I was not meant to be inside all day, but you push through. And again, fast forward, it's a summer day and I'm sitting there looking out the window like, what am I doing here? And something in me just broke. And that's when I went and I was like, okay, I'm doing something different. But there are so many different avenues in dentistry. And I feel like if I hadn't fallen in love with network marketing the way I did, and I say I stayed in dentistry, I probably would have chose a different path, right, within dentistry. And so, I mean, maybe my journey could have been a little different. I feel very blessed that I found something that I just absolutely fell in love with the last 12 years, where I can still help people and still earn a significant income. But I do feel like, especially being a practice owner, they don't, we read the E-Myth. You love baking pies. It doesn't mean you should open a pie shop. It is two completely different things.
Yeah. And Laura, for you, you've now become a dental career coach. So I would guess that there are many calls weekly for you that you're dealing with this notion of, did I make the wrong decision? And did I choose the wrong profession? And there's got to be, and maybe for both of you, you went through this in this process of, letting people down, letting your family down, letting yourself down, letting your significant other down, feeling like, maybe it's you. Maybe I need to get a therapist. Maybe I need to, it's not the profession, it's me, right? I mean, there's got to be this, excuse the language, kind of a mind fuck of like, what is going on here? And I'm sure you all kind of experienced that. So Laura, why don't you talk about that a little bit? What kind of calls are you getting, and what's the main complaint today from dentists practicing?
Yeah, well, I do think that there is a bit of, whether it was done on purpose or we misinterpreted it, there was, maybe we bought a dream that we didn't realize had all these other parts to it. And I love to compare dentistry to a marriage. And we had to, whether you want to call it an arranged marriage or we got married before we got to date, like you had to invest all this time and money before you could even know. I even had a client who was a dental assistant from the time she was 17. And so she grew up in dentistry and she loved it. And then she was like, I'm going to be a dentist. And once she became the dentist, the pressure and the stress of it, and this is these people we are all very capable people. And so you talk about, let's just say it, the mind fuck is that we are powerful people. We are strong people. We're not lazy. We're not losers. We're not negative. We just get into a career that hurts us. I mean, when you said that, Colleen, was what made me realize what we always connect on Facebook is when we're like, I was dying inside, There are a group of us who feel like we are dying inside doing this work. And it's not that it's necessarily dentistry. It's just maybe not a fit for some of us. And so you invest so much to get here. I actually love to say that now I think we do have control over, so let me preface this, but this idea that sometimes some of us are lucky because none of us knew what dentistry really was like, even if you assisted. And some of us got in and it was something we could love and the others didn't. So in a way, we all went in with the same. So, someone out there is going to be like, oh, it has nothing to do with luck, but listen to the full statement. So, but these are the common, your question you asked, what are we discussing on this calls? People think it's something wrong with them. People think that they're lazy. They think they're afraid that what if I leave, then I'll regret it. Well, you can always go back. It's like riding a bike. And most people when you're saying something is crushing your soul and you're dying inside, there's got to be something better for you, because those are not there's no sugarcoating those comments, right?
Well, I will tell you, there's some statistics I'm going to read here, and for those that always pick on my percentages, let me just say that these statistics are coming from the ADA. They're coming as an international survey, and also some of these statistics are coming from Australia. So I'm not going to take the time to separate them all the time, but one stat here, to your point, Laura, is this feeling of confusion of, what is happening. So depression symptoms 42%, anxiety symptoms 44%, and 6% of dentists have tried suicide. And so they're coming to you on these calls with serious problems. They're not coming to you saying, why does my class 2 always have open contacts? And why does, my crown margins never, that's not the conversation, right? It's life or death for some of these doctors. And I want you to just kind of put your hat on, and I might be exaggerating. I'm not really sure, because you do have doctors right now that are single providers, and they don't have a choice. They have bills they need to pay. They're stuck. They hate it, and they have to be there because, it's fair to say at some level, there is a transition. You don't go from 300,000, change a career, to 300,000, right? You go from 300,000 to zero to get back up to 300,000. So that is something that the single providers that are stuck don't have the luxury to do. What do you say to them, Colleen, to those dentists right now listening and saying, well, that's great. You guys had an out, or you have an out. I don't.
I mean, it's a very deep conversation, and I'm sure Laura does a lot more with that, since I talk about a whole lot of things, not just a career. But I'm also torn both ways, because Jason has been teaching for 20 years. He's so passionate about it, and he wants to help these dentists also find their passion. Maybe there's something else you can do, and finding the treatments that you like, finding other solutions to remain a dentist and stay in there, and, with the new training center. And so I always kind of feel a little funny where I'm like, well, you could do this little side gig on the side, and in 2, 3, 4, or 5 years, you maybe have the flexibility and choice to cut back days, and so, yeah, you do have responsibilities. Now, can you financially make some changes to alleviate some of that financial stress? Yes. Now, a lot of spouses might not be, they might not be in favor of that. And I'm kind of being a little sexist here. I think like, the men are working, and then the women are not spending all the money. And I'm always like, well, you should pick up a little side gig and help him. But don't just spend all the money. And so there is a lot of pressure. And again, I'm teasing. Obviously, it goes both genders. But it's hard to know if it is something that's like, I'm done, I'm out, I can't do this anymore, versus maybe I just need to make some changes, or work less days, or bring in an associate, or just share the responsibility. Dentists can be very alone. And someone told us, Dr. Bill Blatchford told us, gosh, probably 25 years ago, dentistry is a profession that eats its young. And I always thought that was such an odd statement when he first said it. But through those first few years, it was right. The local dentists were mean. We got turned in for marketing violations. Like, there were very few people who were like wanting to help, right? So you had to like find your people so you could, communicate these things to people who understood what you were going through. But I do love the fact that the whole side gig thing, most of those things, yeah, you're doing it on the side. And if you're passionate about it, you're not adding more things into your life. It's probably an outlet, and you're loving it. And it's something that can alleviate some of the stuff. You're not just saying day one, I'm starting a new job and I'm quitting dentistry. I mean, you can't do that,
yeah, Laura, I'm going to come to you for this as well. But let me just say, one of the things that Jason and I talked about on our show was, finding what you enjoy doing in dentistry. And so one of the challenges as I've aged into the profession is doing just that. I don't want to do implants anymore. I don't want to do root canals anymore. Okay, call me whatever you want to call me. Doesn't matter, because it's my day. I'll do what I want to do, right? And so I don't make $35,000 a day, but I leave home happy because I didn't do an all on X. That, do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to prove
Absolutely.
anything to anyone. And as you age, you just don't care anymore, right? So now
It
that
gets
I'm,
worse or better.
yeah. So, well, I mean, I'm almost 60. So in my head, I'm like, I don't give an F, what anybody thinks, right? And that wasn't always the case. It wasn't in my early 30s. It wasn't in my early 40s. It's something that comes with just the age, right? Laura, what about you? You want to talk about that a little bit? I know you coach a lot of doctors, so I don't even know what the question was, but
I have lots of answers. It doesn't even
okay.
matter what the question is.
Well, no, we talked about the side gig, and you
Yeah.
have a Facebook page with over 8,000 dental professionals or past dental professionals. Talk to me about some side gigs, Laura.
Well, let's talk, if you don't mind, I'd love to talk first about this misconception about that people have about change. And you mentioned it, how you were saying that you don't go from 300,000 directly over to 300,000. There's always a sacrifice. And we have to figure out what is worth the sacrifice. Maybe I'm going to lower my income knowing that I'm going to raise it later. Or maybe I'm going to start where I'm not at the top of the totem pole from a leadership perspective. And we forget all the effort that we put in to get to this level of career success where we are. And so we often think, oh, I'm just going to say I want to do something and it's going to magically appear. And so I understand we're tired and we don't want to do the work, but there's work that has to be done. And like what Colleen said is, when you have a side gig, I always say side gigs are way more than just like when people come to me and they're like, I want extra income. I'm like, I'm not your coach because I'm helping you make a better life. I'm helping you make a better you so that you can live how you want. I don't care if you stay in dentistry. I'd love it if you stay in dentistry. I don't care if you leave. I want you to do what you want to do. And so I'm not just helping people get side income, but because the reality is if it's only about income, then do dentistry because you're going to make the best money that way. But if it's about your happiness and your well-being and other things that are suffering, then it's really side gig. A side gig is the best vehicle. There are very few careers out there where you could work 3 days a week and make decent money. And then on the side, build something up. If you look at anybody who's successfully pivoted completely out of dentistry or into something non-clinical, other than the non-clinical jobs that are full-time, it's usually because someone started it as a side gig and they built it up, and then dentistry becomes their side gig. So,
Well, let me say this from a personal experience. I
yeah,
can tell you that when you don't know how to manage your overhead, personal and business, it ends up being $1 million a year. Ask me how I know. So one of the things that I learned the hard way is, what am I doing? Like, I'm spending 27, I don't know, whatever the number, some months, 22 days, some months over 30 days to pay my $1 million obligation. And it always seemed like I'm working for everybody else. And so I think that part of it is also very important to understand, that from the beginning, if you didn't manage money well and you weren't disciplined, you will build yourself. I mean, okay, great. You got a big house and 3 cars, but guess somebody's got to pay for that. And so it looks sexy to everybody else, and inside you can't sleep at night.
Mhm.
So understand, and this is maybe an age thing, I'm not really sure. Like the material things just don't matter, right? Because what's more important, personal fulfillment, or what this doctor or that doctor or my neighbor is going to think about how green my grass is, and I think we can all agree that fulfillment is the challenge, right? I mean, you both were not fulfilled. By the way, you're both, I mean, leaving dentistry completely is a little bit strange because it is a single digit number of doctors that actually leave. So, and completely leave, right? I mean, I know, Laura, you're still helping doctors, but you know, you're not picking up a handpiece every day, right? So leaving dentistry completely is rare. It's just, I think it's 6 or 7% from the research that I was looking at. So it's not common, but what is common is that majority of doctors are not happy, and they have to pick up a handpiece. So let's talk about side gigs a little bit, if you don't mind. And I know, Laura, you talk about it in your group quite a bit. What are, and we can talk to you, Colleen, about this as well, because I know you're involved, like you said, with network marketing. But what are some side gigs that you guys, got involved with, and maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work? Give me top 2 or 3 things that you did after you left dentistry.
Well, the one thing I did that worked was I became a weight loss coach.
Okay.
And so that was how I completely left dentistry. And by the way, I also did network marketing, and it was a really great experience. And for me, it didn't turn into a big business ultimately. I did it for a couple of years, and I learned a lot from it. It helped me see. I learned so much about business, and I learned how I actually could change my mind about how I felt about things. So I learned a lot, and it was just a step along the way. But the weight loss coaching was the thing that actually got me out of dentistry. And I was able to, it was kind of like a franchise concept where I followed this one company's protocols, and then they trained me, and my husband's a chiropractor. So I was able to open up this little one woman show in his practice, and I got to use his receptionist, his office manager as my own. And so it was you want to remove all your barriers and make it as easy as possible. So that was the thing I did. I completely left dentistry. I started it out 2 days a week, dropped down to 2 days a week of dentistry. And then ultimately, I ended up having to leave. I never would have gotten myself to leave dentistry because I get it, that we're really bad at getting ourselves to leave, even if it's killing us. But my boss wanted me to buy him out. And I was like, I can't. And I can't lead you on for the next year. So I need to bow out now and say goodbye. And but it was to do weight loss coaching. And I call it my bridge career, because sometimes we just have to take a little bit of that leap of faith and do something different, because it was great, but it wasn't my forever career. I had a real passion for what I do now, and it shows, because that's the thing I was meant to be doing, because that's the thing that was the most successful for me. And I'm good at it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm better at we can be good at something. You don't have to feel horrible about how the work you do. So I'm kind of going on a tangent now, but I'd say the weight loss coaching was kind of the biggest one. And then my experience with network marketing was really fun and hard and sometimes painful. And then I dabbled way earlier. I dabbled in brewing gluten-free beer. So sometimes you just have to try the weirdest things. I mean, that's a long story that's probably not worth going into, but the point is just play with ideas sometimes, and then see what happens. And one door is always going to open another.
What about you, Colleen? What about
I
what
love
are
that. I
some
mean,
side hustles?
the word she used there, as far as like stepping stone and bridge, and you're so right, because you know what, it offers hope. And I think that's the biggest thing. When you open your eyes to, wow, maybe there is something else out there. And it doesn't matter if it's real estate, network marketing, whatever it is, whatever the side gig is. I think when you see other people doing it, you're like, wow, that is possible for me. Maybe I can do this. And the fact that a side gig is just that, you're working on the side. I mean, what's the whole Jim Rohn thing where he's like, you want to be working on your career, but then always be working on like your life and your business, and buy 2 bikes, one to ride, one to rent. I mean, it's all those principles where you can be doing that now. And so for me, I had a woman message me on Facebook in 2012 and saying something about weight loss, energy, business, company. And I always tease that most people would have never sent me that message because I was super fit. I didn't need to lose weight. I have all the energy in the world. And on paper, I look like a successful dentist. I didn't need anything she was offering, but little did she know that I was dying inside. Now, initially, I just kind of poo-pooed it and didn't really pay attention to it, but she planted that seed. And I continued to follow her journey on social media. And right around that summer, when I was again, miserable, at the office, there was a post made about her. She was, being celebrated for making like $500,000 a year, something so crazy. But I turned to Jason, and I always say, I asked that magical question of what if. I'm like, babe, what if I could just do 20% as well as her? I'll take $100,000 working from home. That sounds like a dream. And so that day I literally went home, I picked up the phone, I was like, Jennifer, I don't care what it is or what you're doing, I'm in. And so I bought the products, and within, within the first few months, I was making a few $1,000s a month, and it was fun though. I felt like I found my people. And I still stayed dabbled in dentistry a little bit that first year, but then by the time that summer came around, the kids were out of school. Jason didn't need me any there, he just didn't need me there anymore. And I loved what I was doing. I could just see myself growing in that. And I was like, okay, babe, I'm out. So that was kind of how I got there.
Well, you were just in San Diego this past week, and all I saw was you holding a microphone on stage after stage after stage. So what was that about?
Well, we had a family wedding, so we turned it into kind of like a reunion. So we flew out Thursday, but my company was having their annual convention in Las Vegas, of course, the same weekend, right? So my CEO, since I was speaking on stage, you're supposed to be there, of course, early for rehearsals and all, but he let me fly in Saturday morning, go do the team thing and speak and awards and all the fun stuff, and then fly out that night because I had to be back home. So it was crazy and hectic, but it's funny how when Jason and I first started taking all of our CE, and we would take Dr. David Hornbrook's courses, we'd have to stand up in front of people and just say our name, where we're from, and like why we're there. And I remember we would sweat and be so nervous. And Dr. Bill Blatchford, he was our consultant. He told us to go do Toastmasters, and we did. And so obviously we got more comfortable. So it's funny now when Jason's like, he'll speak in front of 30 people, 80, and he's like, my wife speaks in front of thousands of people. And he's like, there's nothing sexier. And I'm like, yay. Yeah, it's crazy. But so people say, oh, well, I can never do that because I'm not like you. I'm like, well, neither was I. I grew into this person, just like wanting to be a dentist. Yeah. I didn't say I want to be a dentist one day and go out and start drilling teeth the next day. There was a process, right? There's a journey. You learn to do these things. And so you can't really compare someone's chapter 4 to your page 1. It's like not even fair.
And I got glimpses of some of it, Colleen. Is it called Energize? Is that the name of the company?
3 International.
3 International. So just Energize was just kind of a tagline.
Maybe like Limitless or Energize something.
Yeah. So what is 3 International? What do you do with 3 International?
So it is a health and wellness company, and I was with a different company for 8.5 years. It was, one of their $1 million earners. It's phenomenal. But the last year or two, I was kind of getting a little frustrated, discouraged. Some changes were being made, and I kind of took a step back. But the beautiful thing about this was I was still getting my check every single Monday. It's a phenomenal business. I'll never use the word passive income. I think that's misleading. That implies you do nothing, and that's just silly. No, but I would use residual income, leveraged income. It's an awesome vehicle for that. But when I saw that there was a brand new company, Ground Floor, and I saw that the products were very science-based, they were in the PDR, I was just really impressed with everything. And I was just like, you know what? I think I was just ready for a change. I started that February 2023, and they just have, 12 products, very simple right now. They're high on absorption. Because again, we can take all the things, but we always hear we pee out our vitamins. But if we're actually absorbing it, it'll actually make a difference in our body. We just released 8 months ago an all natural GLP peptide, which has just been, of course, taking the world by storm. Because no one wants to be overweight at the end of the day. And they're willing to take the synthetic shots and have the side effects and lose their muscle and have it rebound back and all the things. And so to have this all natural solution has really just been a game changer. And much like Laura, I love that health and wellness. And if I can help someone, yes, be healthier and happier, and then you can make some more money too. Like, yeah, you're going to be in love with your whole life. I mean, it's just awesome.
Yeah. So Laura, it's interesting about health and wellness because, I flat out say, doctors, you're fat, you're lazy, straight up. Right.
Because that.
Yeah. Right. And so put the donut down, right? I mean, stop,
Polarizing.
right? But is it wrong or is it right? I mean, when you're going over health and wellness, part of it has to be the discipline of actually not putting food in your mouth, or at least the wrong types of food in your mouth. So, what are a couple of things that, and these influencers got all these muscles, and they always come on, and you want to be a leader, go to the gym, right? But I think it's not. I mean, raw, right? But what do you talk about with health and wellness, Laura? Or
Oh,
what did you talk about when you bridged into a new career?
into that. Well, that was very specific, like follow this weight loss plan and you'll have success. And what I learned from that is that it's a lot more complex. And when I started that, I was like, wow, this is going to be so amazing, because I was really excited and interested in nutrition, and healthy eating. And so I was like, oh, this is so cool. I'm just going to show people what to do, and then they're going to do it. And it's way more complex. So, I think that tough love approach isn't for everyone. And so I think, now that wasn't really like, I never got a coaching certification. And now for me, it's much more, yes. Oh, if we want to talk about your physical, health and weight and wellness, you can do that. I rarely cover that anymore. At this point, it's really about, the mental, emotional, even spiritual, not religious, spiritual, wellness that you have, because all that stuff matters too. And without that, so many of us we don't even know what we want from for our lives. We don't know what we want. And so really working on those things is what ends up giving people permission to live their best lives.
Is it okay to not know? Is it okay to be confused? Is it okay to not enjoy dentistry? Is it wrong?
It
Is it
might
a
be.
is it a problem? I mean, in other words, like, um, you're supposed to have problems. You're
Well,
supposed
yeah,
to. Do you know what I mean? Like, in a sense, like,
I
just
do.
because you have a problem doesn't mean you need to leave. You need to persevere.
I love I love that you said that. I think it's really important, because there's this, like, the word grit is coming up for me. This idea of like, well, just grit. Just like, nobody is grit anymore. And it's like, at some point, grit can only get you so far. And then when you have to start to take care of yourself, and sometimes the more courageous thing to do is to change and not continue to suck it up, because it is harder to do. It's almost easier to keep going and suck it up. That's why most people do that. And so I think that that pushing isn't always what's going to work for someone, especially if you're trying to fit yourself square peg into round hole.
Yeah.
If you keep trying to push that square peg into the round hole, is it going to go in? No. Right. But I agree. Like, there is this level of, all right, we do have to do hard things. And I'm sure Colleen has too. Like, I've had lots of hard things, and sometimes I still have really hard days. And sometimes in the course of a day, I'll feel really happy for a while, and then I'll feel sad for a half hour.
Yeah.
It's like, life is just that way. And so, I think I guess for me, I think that's really important. Let's put it this way. I've come up with this idea of like diagnosing your career. Just like in dentistry, we say if you want to find the right treatment plan for a patient, you have to diagnose it properly so you can give the right treatment plan, right? If you want to if you want to do the right solution for your career, you have to diagnose it properly. And sometimes burnout gets confused with hating the work that you do. And so it's really important to say, am I burned out? Do I need to have better boundaries and more vacations and take care of myself and better support and systems? Or am I constantly doing that? Even if you take, like, someone comes in with a sensitive tooth and you're like, oh, I can't fully tell what's wrong. Let's just do a filling. And then if the filling doesn't work, you're like, oh, maybe it's cracked. Or, you start with the most conservative reversible treatment first. Right. And so if you do all that, yes, do the hard work and show up in dentistry. But then if you do all that and it's not treating your problem,
Yeah.
then do something about
It's interesting because, when you first get into dental school, it's such an exciting time. Like, oh my gosh, I got accepted to dental school, and I can't wait. I can't wait to get started. And then you're in year 4 of dental school and you're like, holy shit, like I got $500,000 of bills that's coming due here in the next 18 months. Right. And then you get into the profession, you got your license right, and you got your, state board, state license as well. So now you can go practice, and you get stuck into an RDA that disrespects you, a office manager that disrespects you, um, and you feel like you're not a doctor in the place of where you're working, and your production numbers are not where they need to be, and you start getting into this, the walls are just closing in on you, and you don't have an answer. I've gone through a couple of those moments where in my career where I didn't know how to get out, right? And ultimately, something really big had to happen in order for me to forcefully push myself into a different direction, because I couldn't resolve it myself. And I didn't know how, I didn't have the answers. Sometimes it's divorce, sometimes it's sell the practice, sometimes it's move to a different state, sometimes it's, who knows, a change of career, right? Um, and and I know a lot of young dentists today are, quite frankly, they're in their second year, third year. They got patients that complain. They got, office managers that are doing their treatment plans. They got a husband or a wife at home that, you got young kids, being that you're 30 years old or 35 years old, that you're dealing with. I mean, when when is enough of the bullshit enough, right? This is where they're at. um, and the escape sometimes is, let me just poof, do something completely different. And I think, Laura, you said something that really stood out. You can always come back. You're not going to lose you're still a dentist. It's not the end of the world if you try something and it doesn't work. You can always come back. Colleen, you want to talk about, because I see it seems like it's resonating with you. And
Well, you do
so you
sort
want
of
to
have
touch on
that
this?
safety net. And I don't know, I feel like there's a catch 22 because sometimes maybe you don't go full into the new thing because you know you have that to fall back on, but yet you don't need to burn bridges. And I do think that's such, a beautiful thing about a side gig. And I'll just speak specific about network marketing because that's what I know. But I have probably personally brought in 900 people over the last 12 years. And I would say a good 20% of them were dentists specifically, because that's my network. And whether it's in a Facebook group or if I'm posting, when someone posts a problem, whether it's with their health, their weight, money, whatever it is, I have a solution. And so I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, knowing that I'm going to get bashed because most people don't want the MLMs and all that. And I find that just so heartbreaking because I'm like, yeah, like a lot of people, those people don't make a significant income. You're right. Like that is true. Like I think, and I don't think we should ever lie about that, but saying like, yeah, like people don't make a lot of money versus it's a scam. There are two different comments. And so I feel like with network marketing and all these dentists that I have, brought in, some of them were just for the products. Some of them end up having great experiences. And of course they shared it with someone. I just brought someone in maybe 8 weeks ago. He's a very well-known dentist. He's, on the podium speaking all over, the circuit. And he reached out to me. He's like, Colleen, I am desperate. I have tried it all. I tried the shot. I've done and I used to be a weightlifter. I was in such good shape. And he's been on this for 8 weeks. And we talk, of course. And he messaged me just the other day. And he's like, I've never been happier. He's like, I am so happy. And I'm just like, right then and there, I'm like, I could cry tears of joy. I was so grateful that I have this platform and that I am able to offer someone a solution. And so whether it's with, health, and then I have people who, yes, they want like the side gig, they want to make money. Well, you do this 3, 5, 7, 10 hours a week. And it is 15 minutes here, 30 there. And all it's going to do, it's going to give you flexibility and choices. This may start kicking in a couple $1,000s a month, and then maybe you can choose to cut down 1 day a week, or maybe you use that to invest in CE. Right? To go ahead and make your practice better or buy a certain kind of equipment. Like, it doesn't mean you're leaving dentistry. I think, though, specifically with what we do so much with personal growth and community, and it just fulfills your heart in a different way. And I think that can also bring that back to your practice. I've had dentists be happier in their practice. They don't want to leave dentistry, but they love doing this. They love, they win trips. I mean, I'm walking on the beach, in Mexico with these people. I wouldn't have taken trips with them normally, but it just gives them a different outlet. And so I just think this whole side gig thing, it needs to be understood that, like Laura said, you're kind of tiptoeing into a little bit. You can kind of play with it a little bit, see what sticks, see what's great. And as it goes on, if you're learning and growing and you like it, it's going to give you choices and flexibility. It doesn't mean you're like choosing one or the other.
Well, I kind of remember, Laura, what we talked about 3 years ago, and I think it had something to do with burnout, if you remember.
It was burnout.
And it's an interesting topic because, the famous saying of, if you love what you do, you never work another day. And I say that to somebody who's experiencing mental health issues and burnout, and they would get upset. Like, they don't understand that that's even possible. Talk to me a little bit about burnout. What is your definition of burnout? Yeah, what's the solution to burnout? We've talked about finding the type of dentistry you love, finding the type of job that you love. Let's say, for example, you're still a dentist, you just move into a different team or a different office, working less days, right? Which you tried to drop down to a couple days. And were you still experiencing burnout even when you work less days? Talk to me about burnout.
This was one of the most eye-opening experiences because I'm sure you guys will remember in 2004, nobody was talking about burnout anywhere, right? It was just not the buzzword that it is today. And so I just always thought I hated dentistry. I just thought I was really unhappy doing the work. And it wasn't until, so that was started in 2004 and I left in 2011. So it was, many years of being like, I just don't like this work. And so fast forward to 2019, I was preparing a presentation for our dental society's regional meeting. And I was like, I'll do something on burnout. 2019. So COVID really took the burnout word to new levels. So it was just starting to come into our awareness in 2019. And when I looked at all the signs and symptoms of burnout, I was like, oh, that was me. It was everything I felt in practice. So I had this moment where I was like, ooh, was I burnt out? Could I have saved my career? And I mean, the truth is, yes, I was burnt out. And I also didn't like the work I was doing. So they can be together or separate. And I think the biggest signs of burnout are, when you lose that compassion for your patients and or even your team, and like their problems feel like major burdens for you and you just can't even find the compassion for them. They call that compassion fatigue. Also feeling like your work, isn't meaningful and like you don't impact others, and feeling disillusioned by your work. So it's, it's pretty heavy. And it's also associated with being tired. But what I learned was I started burning myself out doing my coaching. And it was actually probably in 2021. And I was going all in really hard in 2020 and 2021. And it was like March of 2021. And I was crying all the time. I was like, just feeling so irritable and annoyed. And I had my first, because we couldn't travel. So I had my first trip planned and I went on this long weekend vacation and I came back feeling totally refreshed and like, I'm ready to work again. And that really opened my eyes because I was like, okay, these are two different things. When I was in practice and I would go on vacation, if it was if it was a 7-day vacation, on day 2, I was already like depressed because I had to go home in 6 days. And I would worry about, it was like, I hated my life at home. And so never felt refreshed. I actually always felt worse going back. And then years later, when I was doing the work that I did, and we kind of have our overachieving, addictive tendencies as dentists, that just kind of followed me there. And I took my vacation and I came back and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel ready to go, different person. So it was really important. There is a difference to love your work and get burned out, and to not love your work and get burnt out. And so things like getting support from your team. There are so many bad environments that
Yeah.
like you were talking about dentists eating their young. It's like so many dentists are working in really tough environments. They're not getting the support they want. They don't have like the permission to really be great leaders. But if you really love what you do, those burnout cures or treatments, we could call them, will work, and you'll feel better taking vacations, getting support, finding that people love to make fun of the phrase work-life balance. If that stuff's not working, then it's something bigger. And like if you go to yoga and you feel good, but the second you walk out the door, you feel horrible again, there's something more going on, and you're allowed to change. Like we have this idea in dentistry that we're lifers and we have to do this forever. And it's just, even to your point earlier, one time my husband said to me, I think everybody gets the Sunday night blues. Like nobody wants to go to work on Mondays. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, but I'm dying inside every Sunday night. And so just, you can change, and you're worth it. Your life is worth it, especially when you bring up the suicide, because we didn't even talk about that, but that is a huge problem, I think. And I suspect a lot of times because people don't think there's a choice.
Well, to that point, 31%. So 6 people have actually tried it. 31% have had suicidal thoughts. That's a huge number. And, but I wanted to go back to this idea when you said 2004, nobody talked about burnout. 2004, nobody talked about mental health. 2004, nobody talked about being bullied. I just saw a patient today, 67 years old. He said he had his 4 bicuspid extractions, which is a different discussion altogether for you orthodontists that are extracting bicuspids. But he said, I was born in Holland and he was 9 years old. And he went to the dentist. They pulled his 4 bicuspids with no anesthetic. And now, today, I have a 50-year-old male that can't come to the dentist because he's scared of the dentist, or the 43-year-old female that has anxiety because of the dentist. These are conversations that we have today that 60 years ago, which is not too far away, they didn't even have anesthetics for this young 9-year-old to have his bicuspids extracted. A lot has changed. Are we as a population just becoming softer? What do you say to that, Colleen?
Yes and no. And I do also think obviously social media and having everything always like there play so much into that. Like there's certain things we never heard of because we didn't hear of it. I lived in a little bubble, right? I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And now you hear and see everything. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like as, just generally, I mean, the way I was raised, yeah, I'm not raising my kids that way, way different. But that said, there's, we still need to, yes, discipline our kids and do those things. But I mean, like she said, it's burnout. It's such a broad, weird word. And, and I think it's different. Burnout's still different than depression, all the way to suicide. There's probably a scale there. And I just feel like if you're feeling that heavy, and it might not just be your practice, you have also to look at your home, your marriage, your kids, your health, how you're feeling. I mean, there's so many things going on in life that contribute to this. It's not just work. And so you have to just kind of really take a moment, evaluate your life, look at your practice, and see what you want to change. Is it your practice, or is it you're awful at home, right? Just say you're in a horrific marriage and then you're going to work 'cause you're already stressed like that. That's going to make it all worse. So there's all these pieces that need to go into it. And I mean, I think we've become softer. Sure. I mean, I always say I'm a very intense person. I don't think I'm that soft. That said, I mean, I still have a big heart. But I can be a hard ass, and I think that has served me very well through the decades. Because there is a lot of grit to anything, whether it's transforming your practice, which I think that's a big thing you could do. I mean, if you're not loving what you're doing, change it. And it doesn't happen overnight, but find the things you like. You don't like Jason and I, we didn't want to do root canals. He knew from the beginning he wanted to do cosmetics only. I'll use him as an example. We took about $90,000 of CE within about 6 months. But we didn't just take the CE, we went home and we did it. I mean, we paid ourselves back that 90 grand really quickly. I mean, he had laser focus on what he wanted to do. And it was a journey, right? It wasn't just overnight, but we haven't done one endo. We haven't done one root canal in 20 years because he didn't want to do it. So he was very clear on what he wanted. He loved it and went. Now, as you're figuring things out within your dentistry, you have to figure out what you like. Right? You really do. I think that's so important. And if you don't have a team member you like, well, then yeah, you got to fire them. And that's hard, but you want to be surrounded with people who are going to love you and support you and have that same vision. I mean, it's all the practice management stuff. And if you're going to hire someone, do what they say. That's why you hired them. Right? And so don't be soft in those areas. Like, have your boundaries, grow yourself. Personal growth is such a big thing. Your mindset is everything. I mean, that comes back to that. I think unless you truly have a chemical imbalance as far as like depression and suicide, that's a whole nother subject.
Well, change, fear, confidence, I think they all kind of go hand in hand, because many people think about change, but they have the fear and they lack the confidence. And quite frankly, they lack the support. I mean, you brought up divorce and, being unhappy at home. 56% of marriages end up in divorce. 80% of the marriages that don't end up in divorce are unhappy couples. And so there's about 10% of happy marriages where people are genuinely happy and feel fulfilled. Well, that can create burnout. That can create mental health issues. And obviously that can also create financial crises as well. Losing half of your assets is painful. Laura would attest to this. I'm sure she has seen these anonymous posts on social, on Facebook, that say things like, I'm not comfortable with my partner. I don't know if this marriage is going to last. I'm going to stay because I don't want to lose half of the assets. I'm going to make this work. There's a lot of that goes on anonymously on social channels. And Colleen, you said something that's really true as well. Everything around us has changed with social media. Gary Vaynerchuk famously said, social media basically has just exposed who we are. This is who we are. It's just now you're hearing about it because it's on social channels. So it's not that social media has changed us. This is who we are, and we're seeing it. So I think there's certainly a lot more noise around this definition of what success is when you go on these social channels. But I simply just go back to this concept of, everything has to be silent and everything has to be initially about you. This unconditional love concept versus transactional is part of what marriage is, meaning the husband is worried that the wife is going to leave if he leaves his $600,000 job and wants to do something different and something new. These types of thoughts go through the minds of doctors that aren't happy. And so the pros and cons, right? You sit and have these, and I'm sure, Laura, in your coaching sessions, you have these deep conversations. I've done some coaching, and I've had the male dentist tell me, I can't leave a job that I'm unhappy in because my wife will make more money than me. I became a dentist because These are quotes that I hear in these conversations. I wanted to play the piano. I wanted to be a musician. But in my culture, if I didn't become a doctor, I would be an embarrassment to my family. So these things are real. I just got a quote, a comment. Let me read it. I need my eyes. I have 3 sets of eyes, my loops being the third. Comment from Drady on Laura's IG. Side gig saved my life. Knew dentistry wasn't for me way back in SimLab. Thought it would grow on me as my skills improved. Never happened even after 15 years. There's another comment that says, hello from Iran. People watching us in my homeland. I've been in the US. I mean, I'm more or less American. I've been in the US 48 years now. And your husband, Jason, said crushing it. You know, I didn't know that Jason played for Wake Forest soccer. So, you know, Jason, I want to see you juggle a soccer ball, my man. No, I'm kidding. But I saw in one of his videos that he was juggling a ball, and I thought that was cool. So that was kind of a nice little comment. But going back to this conversation of this mind fuck that we've talked about, right? I mean, this, like you said, 2004 to 2011 took you 7 years to go through this pain, Laura, of finally leaving the profession. It's just really interesting to me. This idea of burnout. Are we too soft? Is it grit? Is it pivoting? Is it perseverance? Is it pull up your big boy pants? Is it, do I just change the services that I provide? Is it that I work less days? Is it, do I change a job? Is it, do I move states? Do I need a new partner? Right?
It's complicated.
I mean, yeah, it's not an easy answer. And, you know, the fear of being judged, the fear of failure, the fear of disappointing yourself. I mean, it's just all in your head, right? It's all in your head. And so many times and I talk about this, we just need to be nicer to ourselves. Stop beating yourself up. It's okay, right? It's okay to not have all the answers. And I think part of, and I talk about this, and I know it's a little bit hard, but it's actually probably pretty hard. You know, you get fixated and you keep beating yourself up, it becomes your reality. And when it becomes your reality, now you've changed as an individual. You're another person. So this idea of stop talking to yourself, or if you do, be nicer to yourself, is real. Because maybe there's actually not even a problem, and you're creating all this bullshit for yourself.
Lots of times that's the case.
Right, Laura?
Dysmorphia.
Yeah, I mean, right. It's career life dysmorphia. We've actually called it that before in my coaching group. But, you know, we all grow up learning these unspoken, unwritten rules about the way the world works. And we follow them blindly. And a lot of these rules are really important, and they got us to where we are. They got us to our level of success. And even one rule might even be, you know, people who don't have a lot of grit are weak, you know, but what happens if you're gritting, grinding your way, and then it's not getting you the results you want? What's weaker, to keep doing it or to have the courage to change, right? So you can start saying like, oh, these rules got me here. They were great, but they're not serving me anymore. What are the new rules that I believe now? And, even Colleen, when you were talking about your experiences in your business, is like, that's what a lot of times you get from that experience is you learn to dream and that it's okay to dream. And dentists, we are weird. We beat ourselves up over it and we don't even want to admit to ourselves that we have a dream. We like using the word dream with dentists is really funny because like I don't ever use it because I know they're going to be like, "Rawr," because it's uncomfortable. And I used to feel that way. But it's like when we start to see that we're living according to these rules that were handed down to us that aren't even true, then we can see that we can rewrite new rules. Like one of my new rules was I can have it all. Of course, I get to decide what having it all means for myself. Like, I don't have kids, and that's how I want it. So, people, yes, I'm weird. We're the weird. I left dentistry. I'm weird. I love it. I own it. Right. But, like, you get to decide what you want to do. And so, I think, to this also, let's talk about the self-talk. This is the next level growth. I've never seen a career that's so amazing like dentistry, a career that takes so much talent and skill and brains and everything. I've never seen a career so great make more people feel horribly about themselves. It makes no sense, right? Yeah. Like this is the hardest work and most people in the world can't do what we can do. And yet we beat ourselves up constantly because we're not good enough. And so I think the real work is to start to see that you have worth and that we don't always have to be the most successful, earning the most millions of dollars in our practice in order to prove that we have worth. And that's a new rule also, that we have worth just for other contributions that we have in the world. And when we start to see that, then we can speak more kindly to ourselves.
There's just so much. I mean, I could seriously talk about this for forever, but there are multiple doctors that have multi-million-dollar businesses, and by definition, they're struggling. They're struggling. And I've looked at financials. 1.8 million, taking home 300,000, have to pay taxes, and you're at $180,000. You got a 1.8 million on paper. You're so famous and so popular and so much money. You're making so much, and when it all comes down to $180,000 at 160 hours a month, it's $90, $85 an hour. You got a $1.8 million business and you're bringing home after tax $90 an hour. That's real math. That happens in financial statements today in dentistry. So that's a business owner. Now let's look at another associate, not a business owner, right? Same kind of concept. Think about it. You make $1.8 million for someone. You bring home 30% of it. What's the math? 540. Now you got to pay 38% tax on that W-2. $90 an hour. Right? So you're chasing the wrong game. The game of making the 1.8 million is not the game. The game is, how do I make 800,000 and net 50%? That's the game you want to play. How do you play that game?
Let's teach Jason, please.
No. How do you play that game? Because the $1 million is burnout. The $1 million is the 5th and 6th day of work every week. That's the $1 million. And so simplify your life is probably step one if you're a dentist and you're not happy. Stop chasing the 1.8, start chasing the 800, and learn how to play a better game. It's possible. You ask consultants, CPA firms, there are doctors that are bringing home 65% net. Now, granted, they don't have 500K in debt. They've paid their homes off. They've paid their office. I get it. But guess what? They weren't at 12% when they started because they had the discipline to understand that net is more important than gross. That's a problem in our profession. So I think that's goes without saying, but here's another thing that I talk about too. Grab a blank sheet of paper. F it. Grab a blank sheet of paper, get a pen. Understand that the first thing you got to do is be nice to yourself. Second thing you got to do is you got to do what you say you're going to do. You got to do what you say you're going to do. I should go to the gym. Oh, I didn't go to the gym. I should stop eating the ice cream. Oh, fuck it. I'll just eat the ice cream. It's easier. First two things you got to do. Right? And then, quite frankly, and this is literally, I mean, look, I still talk to myself. I still don't do everything that I tell myself that I should do. So it's not that you need to be perfect at it, but you need to be better at it and do your best at it. I'm sorry. I think I'm just going off on this tangent here. I
Love your
apologize.
passion.
But look, grab a damn pen and a blank sheet of paper. Be nice to yourself and do much better and start writing down things that you want in your own life. And you can make a whole new life in 6 to 9 months. Is it possible, Colleen, to do that?
I'll say yes and no. 6 to 9 months is fast, but it depends on what your definition of changing your life is. I believe someone can change overnight. I mean, just in general. I mean, that is a decision. It's a choice. And I use the phrase, when the pain is great enough, I promise you'll make a move. The pain is just not great enough right now, I guess. So for me, leaving dentistry, the pain was great enough. I didn't want to do it anymore. And making changes. I mean, you're talking about personal growth. I mean, and mindset. I mean, I've been working on this for 20 some years now. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. Earmark that name. He does a lot with meditation and breaking the habit of being your old self and growing into a new identity. I coach a lot on this. I've written, well, actually, I guess I've contributed 6, 7 chapters now to different books on different mindsets. And like you're talking about discipline and self-worth and all of these concepts. But it does come down to, like having grace for yourself, loving yourself. But how do you do that? But it's taking one step at a time, one day at a time, not being overwhelmed, taking time to sit down. What do you think about? I mean, one of the books I read was Jack Canfield's Success Principles. A long time ago, I read this book, but everything he was saying, I'm like, yes. I mean, pick up some of these books. I tell my kids are now 18 and 15. Chase leaves next week. I'm going to die. But I tell them, I'm like, life doesn't have to be this hard. I promise you, life is not hard. If you do a few of the right things every single day, you're going to get to where you need to know. Whether it's working out, eating fairly healthy, loving your spouse, saving your money, like reading 10 pages a day. That's, you're going to get 10 good books a year. Like, you're going to learn something from that. Like, it doesn't have to be that hard, but it starts with you. Everything starts with you, your relationship. I mean, I can say with my daughter, like she can be very difficult. Again, I wrote a chapter in a book on this. I could be blaming her, or I, as the adult, can take responsibility, take accountability, and change my actions on how I view her and how I treat her and change that relationship. That's on me. And so I do feel like that's what that soft mentality. I'm like, no, like you do have to be kind of hard on yourself in that sense, but again, with grace. Because again, consistency over perfection, obviously you have the whole slight edge. What you do a little bit every day, it will compound. Or like if you have a certain habit, I'm a very habit routine person. I do the same thing every day, all day. I go to the gym 7 days a week. And once in a while, I might miss a day. I will never miss 2 in a row because that's not who I am. And so it's these little habits that shape who you are, but you've got to start. Yes, start at the beginning. And like you said, take time to write down, who do you want to be? And then start taking those steps to do it. And it should be fun. This whole thing is a journey, right? And we're going to have our setbacks and obstacles and hard parts in life, obviously. But if the rest of it's so great, it helps, soften those, bumps along the way.
What's interesting? You talk about habits. Everything that we do now is a series of habits that now just became who we are. And so changing the habits changes your standards. So have better standards for yourself. My wife is watching this. She said, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. She is so right. So I thought that was interesting. I just got that text from her. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, well, she's watching. No, I love that. And it's true. 1% compounded, weekly, monthly. You don't have to do it all at one time. It doesn't all have to happen in 30 days. It can take 3 years. That's okay. What's 3 years out of 90 years of your life?
The time's going to pass anyway. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, what is 3 years, right? I do have another question. What was the biggest thing in dentistry that held you back? I'm asking as a dentist. So maybe I think they're asking, when you were a dentist, what was the biggest thing that held you back? I'm not sure.
Held me back, maybe staying in dentistry, could be.
Possibly.
I'll answer it that way. For me, what held me back was all these old rules. I thought if I changed, I was a quitter. If I quit, I was a failure. If I was a loser. I didn't think I could. We talked about money earlier. I didn't think that I could survive on a different income. I thought I had to have this. And one of the things that was really interesting was I learned that abundance is a state of mind, because I felt way more free and abundant when I was not practicing dentistry and not making as much money. And when I was making all that money, I was hoarding it and holding it tight because I was like, I need to retire and get out of here. So I need to, and it was miserable. I didn't even enjoy my life because I was hanging on to everything, So for me, it was the fears around how else would I do this. I also didn't know what to do. And we talked about this, we touched on it earlier, is you don't know yourself anymore. You get into this career, you think you're choosing it for yourself, but ultimately you're choosing it because you get super big kudos from everyone around you. They think you're awesome. You think it's going to be a certain way, and you settle right into this identity. I know people who've stopped doing their hobbies like painting and art and things they love. And so we just become so single-minded, always focused on our career. We forget, we've talked a lot about your personal life. We neglect our personal life. We neglect doing things we love, and we totally lose sense of who we even are. And so I would say it was really a lot of those fears, not knowing myself, and these big rules around how much money I needed to make.
Yeah, and I think the fear of unknown is always going to be there, right? I mean, even today, what is the future going to bring? Like,
but what if we don't have faith and we want to step into the unknown, because it could be a beautiful thing. Yeah. There's the flip side. Doesn't always have to be fear. Which one are you going to feed? Faith or fear? That's a choice.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, Colleen, or why don't we do things to change your mindset so that we reduce the unknowns? I mean, that's what I do, is like, yeah, okay, you're saying like, let's have fun and choose faith over fear. Love it. And what if we can reduce the unknowns and make it safe for you? Because people, back to the misconception, they think it has to be this big leap, and it doesn't work to jump off the career cliff. And you were citing The Slight Edge as like, that book is the best book for change.
Jeff Olson,
everybody read it. Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge. Like,
the
intro makes me cry every time.
In the safe way. Yes.
I think just to kind of to add to what you're saying, Laura, simplify things, and simplify by just asking a simple question. What do I want to do to fulfill my own happiness? That's where you should start. And many times I will tell you, who would have thought this is my 23rd episode doing a live show, right? I didn't go to dental school to do this shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, so what I'm saying is just internally, look within first. I think many times we're just trying to satisfy everybody and everything else around us, except us, except yourself. And I think mothers have this a lot, is that and I have a great conversation next week with Ann Duffy. You both know her. And prosthodontist Kim Schlom out of Bend, Oregon. And the conversation, the topic's about women in dentistry and how, I mean, honestly, to be a mom, to be a dentist, to be a wife, to be take your kids to the games and take them to the shows, and you ladies have it so much harder than us men. So that's a great conversation. I'm excited to have that conversation with them. But um, you know, satisfy yourself first is a real thing, right? It's a real thing. And if somebody loves you unconditionally,
Thank
because
you,
if it's
Jason.
transactional, it'll end up in divorce. If somebody loves you unconditionally, they will enjoy the change because they will want a better version of yourself in the marriage as well as in their everyday. I mean, I think it's fair to say that your husbands are much happier today because you're happier.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yes, I wish I
and
could
vice
pop in one right
versa,
now.
right?
Yes.
And vice versa. The husband also, if they change and they're happy, you will be happier. So, I mean, I told you before we went on that we were about 90 minutes for two guests. But I want to ask this weird, odd question. I don't know, maybe it's not. But what is a mistake that you made that if you were to do it over again, you wouldn't do the same thing going into dentistry? So in other words, you've chosen to be a dentist, but now that you've chosen to be a dentist, what was a mistake that you made as a dentist that you wouldn't have done today
For
if
me,
you
so
went back?
we're in that managed care practice, and there are like 10 different practices, and we're all over the place. And again, I excelled in that. I mean, I was just good in that setting. And then we started taking all these cosmetic courses, and I kind of followed Jason. And I think that was one thing that really hurt me, was comparing myself to him and trying to do what he was doing. And I wasn't good at it, and it wasn't my thing. And I feel like had I stayed maybe more in that setting and let him kind of go do his thing, it could have been different. Now, again, I don't know, a decade later, maybe
You
I
know,
should have changed having
I,
kids and want more time. But in that moment, I think staying there, I would have been happier.
I was going to ask you this question earlier, Colleen, but now that you brought that up, I am going to ask you, what if you didn't get married to Jason? What if you
Oh,
graduated
dang.
dental school and you were a single, doctor in the family? Do you think that would have been different for you as far as staying
Yes.
in
Yeah, I
dentistry?
have to be very candid with that. Yes, I was very fortunate to have Jason, and not that I don't need to work. I mean, I guess I could have just been like the stay-at-home trophy wife kind of person, but that's just not who I am. I have a lot of fire, and again, I want to give and and help people. But I did kind of have that safety net. If what I say now, though, knowing what I know now, people ask all the time when I see patients, they're like, "Oh, we miss you, Colleen. Don't you miss it? You'll ever come back?" And I say, you couldn't pay me $2 million a year to go back even 2 days a week. I'm a time person. I want my time, and I want to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. Now I'll work hard and I'll help people and I'll do what I need to do. I can't, I don't want to have to be somewhere, but I guess if I was a single mom and I just had to do what I had to do, then yeah, I guess I would change my environment. And we were Blatchford clients. So, I mean, we had all the coaching and all the things, and I'm very capable and I can do anything. I would have found my way in dentistry if I had to.
Yeah.
I'm blessed and happy I didn't have to, and I love what I do now, and I will never go back. But if I had to, I just had to somehow do it my way that made me happy, and I would have figured that out.
Yeah. That's interesting. What about you, Laura? What is the one thing that you would have changed if you were to do it over again?
I think I would not have stuck around jobs that weren't serving me. And we see it still all the time. And I always say I'm like a dog. I would just stay in these practices for so many years if they were not going well, and I would suffer. But I think it's not just me. I think it's really hard to find these great, great jobs. And so I think for me though, but just staying and sticking with it kept me suffering for a lot longer. But overall, I don't feel like I regret any of it, even though it was the most painful thing all those years I was going through it, because I have this belief that no matter what we do, like I have a client, Jenna has this amazing painting business. She does team building painting workshops, like those painting and sipping places.
Yeah.
They're incredible. And she, when she was younger, loved art and thought she would want to be an artist. But her parents taught her, just like all of ours taught us, you can't make money doing art. And there's a part of me that thinks, what if she had to go into dentistry and see what this life is like to then be able to say, you know what, I'm going to go back and do art. What if she had done art first and then didn't make enough money? She would be like, I need to go into dentistry so I can make money. See, we learn what's important to us through our life experiences. And if we don't, like when I talk to students who are like, sometimes I will get calls from seniors in college who are like, I have a day to decide if I should accept my dental school acceptance. And I'm like, we don't have enough time. A day is not a time. But also, how do you help someone who isn't, we don't know. You have to experience life to get your answers. And when you talk about getting softer, that's actually what I think of is like, we want to bypass all that. We want to not experience life and get our answers. And in that way, I think maybe we're not any softer than we used to be, but wanting that is a little soft, I think. But really, that's how we know, is to get into action. So whether it's choosing dentistry, changing your practice, even for you, Colleen, going where you went and following Jason, you would have never known.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's so much of a balancing act because of part of life is change and part of life is wisdom through pain. And we have to accept that and allow it to come to us because that's the beauty of life. And if we try to avoid that pain and that change, I think we limit our self-development and we limit the joys of what life can really present to you. So as much as we want to have the answer right in front of us, sometimes it's okay not to know. Sometimes it's okay to take that leap of faith and see what happens. What's interesting? I'll tell you a quick short story. Maybe I don't know, but I played pro soccer for 4 years, and I fell into being a dentist. I was born to be a 15-year pro soccer player, and the MLS came in '96, and this kind of comes into this, just allow life to come to you. MLS formed in '96. I got drafted to go play in Dallas, and the coach in San Diego was changed. I was in San Diego playing, and the coach in San Diego didn't want me, and he said, I can't have you. They have your rights. And I'm like, I don't want to leave. I mean, this is the 90s, right? Early 90s. And I said, I'm done. I'm done playing. Stop playing. I'm 27 years old going into my 4th year of pro soccer in a season. Now imagine this is 10 years of playing 7 days a week. And I mean, I could run 2 marathons, literally, at the same time. And I stopped. I went back to school, took my DAT the following year, and now it's 1999. All my friends that are pro athletes are playing, having a blast. They're 6 years, 8 years in, having an amazing time. I'm at Tufts Dental, sitting in a effing cubicle, 18 hours a day, trying to learn the Krebs cycle. Imagine the mind fuck that was going on in my head about what is happening here. And it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened in my life. but I allowed it to come to me. I didn't press it, because if I pressed it, I was gone back into the pros. And I just allowed it. I said, I made a decision, and I've made a decision. And life will lead me in whatever direction it leads me. I was never meant to be sitting here learning about the fucking Krebs cycle, but here I am, right? Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is, at the moment, it seems like the world is falling on your head and everything is doomsday. But 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 15 years, 20 years later, you're like, wow. The joy of where I am today, because I made a very difficult decision at a moment that seemed like the worst decision. And I think the two of you can attest to that you left the profession that you worked so hard to get into, that you worked so hard to become a dentist, that you worked so hard to try to make it work for you. And you made the tough decision that said, F it, I'm out of here. And I'm going into what I don't know what it will bring to me. And look how much you're smiling today. And look, I know we talk about people smile, but inside, they're miserable. But I mean, the reality is, like Laura said, you've gone through pain after dentistry. But if you're enjoying what you're doing, I mean, listen to what you said, Colleen, $2 million, you want to work for 2 days a week. I mean, isn't that crazy that in 2005, 2006, you would never make that comment?
Never.
You would never say that, because you've allowed things to develop in your life. You've allowed things to just, sometimes you just have to let it go, right? And obviously you still got to work hard. You got to do all the right things. And, it's not like you just sit on the couch and eat potato chips and, then you get fat and lazy and you call Laura for the health and witness, right? No.
No, I don't do that anymore. Call Colleen.
I had to throw the fat and lazy in there, because
yeah, you got to get that in,
right?
So we won't call you that. Call Colleen. She won't call you that.
Yeah, no. True. Call me and I'll tell you you're fat and lazy. So, ladies, what's next for you? What's coming up in the next 18 months? What is on the horizon for you? What is the difficult decision that you're making today that in 20 years you're going to love?
Well, I don't know that I have a difficult decision today, because life feels a lot more peaceful now that I know myself. But, to your point earlier about, you have to look inside. I have my Facebook group as dentist side gigs, and so much of my business is side gigs. And I realized that so much, like I said earlier, don't just come to me because you want extra income. The work is all inside. So I came up with it's an inside gig. Yeah. And so I'm hosting the Inside Gig Summit in Portugal in about 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Oh, that's awesome.
And there will be another one next year. It's so fun. I love doing that stuff. It's like a mini version of your meetings that you get to go to, Colleen, where we're just getting to be with the best people and dream and figure out what you want from your life. But we will be doing it in 2027. And so I'm going to work on sharing those details eventually. But I think it's just, taking more time for me, honestly, like doing the work and stop putting my own value and worth on overachieving, because I'm kind of getting tired of it. There's such a better way.
I saw the cover on your page, the dental inside gig. I think it's Inside Summit.
Inside Gig Summit.
Inside Gig Summit. Where in Portugal?
We are going to be in Cascais. It is a town right outside Lisbon, and we're also going to spend a little bit of time in Sintra. So it's all like 30 minutes around Lisbon. We'll go into
that's
Lisbon
so
one
cool.
day. It's going to be awesome.
That's so cool.
That's amazing. Congrats. That's so cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I will tell you, putting together educational courses, putting together summits, putting together anything where you have to bring people together, it's not
It's
easy.
not.
It is not a side gig at all.
It makes me
It's a gig. It's a gig.
You have to do it because you love it. And
You
what
know,
you do is important to you.
more power to you, because
Thanks.
I know you put a lot of hours into that. So congrats for
Thanks.
that. I hope and I wish a ton of success. Portugal is close to my heart. Well, I don't know if today, but my very good friend is Portuguese from Madeira. And I don't have many friends, to be honest. I know my wife's probably still listening, going, "You have no friends. You have no friends." No, that's a different discussion, by the way, because I work over 100-hour weeks, and I love
Yeah,
what
we
I
keep a
do.
very
So I
small
don't.
circle.
Yeah, yeah. No, this whole friendship, that could be another live show all by itself with who you hang out with.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll come back for that one. We'll come back. Colleen, you want to come back for that one?
Deal.
We have lots of good
Um,
topics.
Colleen, what's next for you?
Well, I feel like I'm in this season this summer. I really just took a lot of time with the kids. Chase, like I said, is leaving for college on next Friday. And I feel like people talk about this work-life balance. I love the word seasons. I feel like there's some seasons where you're hustling and you're sacrificing and you're missing precious moments in your, in your family's life. But then that's where, okay, you have the season where you get to, enjoy those benefits of your hard work and labor. And so I love in my business where we can have those seasons of just being a little slower and a little more present. And then when you're ready to kind of start a new team and go and do like a 90-day run, you hit it hard again. And so I know I'm probably going to be hitting, as soon as he goes to school, time will, let's have more time and I'll hit a 90-day run to start a whole new team. And of course, I'm still the CFO of Smile Stylist and his training center. And we have 7-8 courses a year. So I still help a lot with that. And because again, I love talking to doctors. And again, when I'm talking to doctors, I'm not saying, hey, come join my company because you don't do dentistry. It's, yes, learn how to do these no prep veneers. They're phenomenal. And so I love getting them into, Jason's hands because he's so passionate. And so we're just really looking forward to continuing to grow that business. I would love to work on our overhead. You talk about that, having a $2 million practice and you take home 20%. You're like, but that's a whole other subject too. But yeah, I mean, I'm just in a, like her. I mean, I'm just loving life. I am just still continuing my own journey of just self-love and faith and abundance and happiness and just enjoying the moment. And I just love this moment that I'm in with my family and my career and everything else. So I'm just enjoying every moment. And that's that.
Well, the conversation I had with Jason, he made me realize that many of my cosmetic cases could have been done no prep. And
when you start to see it, it's crazy.
Yeah. And the idea of just having bigger teeth, okay, I get it, because some patients have smaller teeth. So I've actually, I think I told him I've done maybe 2 or 3 no prep cases. I know I've done one that I can think of. No. Like, I mean, in 25 years, like I've done one or
since the conversation. Like,
no. Like I cut teeth. You know what I'm saying? I cut. So, anyways, it was great talking with him. But it certainly opened my eyes to, you don't have to cut teeth to get to where you need to get to. So, anyways, yeah, ladies, thank you. This was fun. This was entertaining. I think the fact that somebody comments that literally saved someone's life, I don't think they're joking in a sense. And I know that there's important work that's being done behind the scenes by both of you. So I really appreciate you both for being here. And I can tell you that I'd love to talk about your friends next time we get on the show and talk. And, in-laws and extended family and, their friends and uncles and aunt, it can get complicated, right?
Yeah.
It can get complicated.
Our in-laws were here for 2.5 weeks. They just left this morning.
Did they leave or were they shown the door?
No, they're actually, I was very blessed. I have like the best in-laws and brother-in-law and sister-in-law. I got very, very lucky.
Well, Colleen, I will tell you, you have 2 beautiful kids. You really do. I saw so many pictures of you, as I said on stage this past week, of your family. And yeah, no, blessings for sure. Listen, ladies, thank you. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
And I feel like I got to grab a sheet of paper and a pen, a blank sheet of paper and a pen. And so if everybody that's listening to this, go grab a sheet of paper and a pen if you're struggling and recreate, because you can. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks for having us. Thanks for sharing our
Yes,
message,
thank you.
our messages.
Awesome.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Wow, that was fun. I enjoy talking to all types of doctors that want to do $50 million of business, and doctors that leave dentistry because they hated it. So this was fun. It was a lot of fun. And every time I sit in these seats right here, I am learning something, and I feel blessed that I'm put into this position to share and learn at the same time. As I mentioned, next week, we have a great show. Women in Dentistry continues with Ann Duffy and Dr. Kim Schlam. And I look forward to talking with them. Follow me, as always, at Dr. Shaheen Safarian on the social channels, and subscribe to my YouTube channel.